Welcome to the DeFi Standard. This is Patty XRP.
And Mickey B. Fresh.
And today we're just basically, since we don't really feel like there's, a ton of news to talk about or anything, market's having a nice little pullback. We can do kind of an AMA. I kind of took the name Agenda Free Friday from a sports talk radio show that I like. So in the chat, we'll mainly be taking topics from there throughout as you guys put them in. Probably more specific questions will be easy to answer as opposed to like super broad ones and stuff like that. But Mickey, anything you want to start off with?
No, typically, in the live streams, we talk a lot, and we don't get to too many questions. So I think this would be a good live stream where we could get to some of those questions that we haven't been able to get to in the past. But before we get to that, just to touch on, market's taking a pullback right now. So like you said, there's really not too much to go into to make a video. So let's get going with the questions.
Awesome. So let me take a look at what we got going on here. I know there were some coming up earlier. So here's one from Chia Pet here. So he said, from what I gathered, it seems like Flare Finance will act like the Bifrost wallet and allow us to delegate to the FTSOs of our choice while holding custody of our coins. So this is definitely, I would say, like, at least some of that is definitely clear and other parts aren't as much. So what Flare Finance is doing right now, working on X5 version 2, is they're integrating the wrapped Songbird token into their protocols so that you can still earn the FTSO delegation rewards while you're using it in some kind of DeFi protocol. And so with that, what I don't know is, are they going to use explicit delegation for everything or some things, or percentage delegation for everything or some things? So if you don't know the difference between those two, percentage delegation is like what we do from, our Decent wallet or our Bifrost wallet. We say, hey, maybe I want 100% here, or I want to do 50-50. Basically, at the moment, you're allowed to, per like address, you can have it split between two different signal providers. I don't know what the deal is around basically the what's it called, how we can change that in the future. I imagine it's something we could. Explicit is where you specifically say, hey, I want to use 500 wrap Songbird to delegate to this signal provider, but you have to redelegate every time there's any kind of changes and stuff like that. So it's not as easy as just wrapping new tokens and they automatically delegate for you. So I can see instances where each one would be used depending on the protocol. So, as far as options, I don't know out the gate. Are they going to have it set to go to DeFi oracles for everything? Maybe. Luckily, if we don't like that with Flare Finance in the future, it's going to be a DAO, and that's something we can change. But we'll just have to see what they end up coming up for us. Anything to add, Mickey?
No, I think you covered everything.
Awesome. Let me see. Okay, so here's one. Oh, something. Talk about holding XRP on the ledger versus cold storage. I'm not really sure what you mean by this.
I'll take that one.
Yeah, maybe explaining the difference, what's going on with ledger.
So when you hold XRP in cold storage, you're holding it on the XRP ledger. Your XRP always remains on the XRP ledger. So the difference between cold storage and holding it into, say, a software wallet, it stays in the same place. The XRP is always on the XRP ledger. The only difference with cold storage is you're cold storing the private keys, right? Those are kept, or the seed phrase, offline, right? To access the actual, so to authorize the movement of your XRP. Did you lose me there?
Yeah, I lost you for like 3 seconds right there. I can hear you now, good. Mickey. Sorry about that, y'all. Having some technical issues, but kind of to continue on with that. So no matter where you're holding your assets, they're on that, like wherever you're holding XRP, depending on the wallet application, everything is on the XRP ledger at all times, unless, of course, like maybe you mint FXRP in the future, that FXRP would be on the Flare network. Now, there's different types of storage based on how the private keys are stored, and the private keys are, the seed phrase, which is like a readable way for us to basically retype in those somewhere else to get access again. So with that, with Ledger, they store the private keys in that hardware device, as opposed to maybe something like Bifrost Wallet or Zum. That seed phrase that you have for those are stored locally on the device that you've uploaded the wallet to. So that's the main difference between them. And let's see if I can get Mickey back. Can you hear me, Mickey?
Yep. Sorry about
Awesome.
that.
Cool. Yeah, I was just saying how difference between like Bifrost or Zum versus Ledger. So I don't know if you wanted to add anything else, what you're getting into there.
Now, I don't want to double cover what you covered
Cool.
already.
All right.
So yeah, these. But I will say one thing, that just adding these software wallets, it's the authorizing of your assets. So that's what takes place off Ledger. So right, you have your Ledger, which is a hardware device. You're authorizing it to send assets somewhere. That's happening offline, but you have to still plug it in to the internet to do that. So it still then does get access to the internet. So if you have, say, a software wallet like Zum, for example, you're using your biometrics to authorize that transaction to be sent. Your biometrics can't be hacked. They're locked in the secure enclave. So at this point, many of the software wallets, if they're designed very well and they're audited and there's the attack vectors on secure intrusion on the back end are secure, they're as safe as the hardware wallets, in my opinion. So that's something that's changed, I think, over the years. Offline is still probably safest, but you still then have to plug it in every time. Nano X allows you the Bluetooth feature to do it that way. So moving forward, I think the hardware wallets are going to go away, and we'll see things like Credo with multi-party computation wallets, and like what PolySign's building, where you won't even have to worry about the private key, where it will be separate or sharded in many pieces and then stored upon many entities. So this is one of the biggest problems in the industry right now, is the private key. And most of the big exchanges now use multi-party computation in different ways, in different forms. So I'm not saying at all keep your assets on exchanges, because we know even with, besides security, other problems come with that. Censoring. For example, look at how many people are waiting to get their Songbird right now, because the exchanges haven't. You're counting on them to do everything. So there's many drawbacks to leaving on exchanges, even though I think they're much safer than they were in 2017, 2018. It's not like it used to be. As long as you can manage the security of your account, it's much safer than 2017, 2018. But the software wallets are definitely, many of them are pretty safe these days. I haven't seen, like, I don't know if you said that, Patty, regarding many of these wallets. Like, there's been very few attacks that you've seen anyone hacked due to the technology, unless it was just lack of, somebody giving up their phone to somebody and letting them sign in with their biometrics, because your biometrics can't be hacked out of the secure enclave. So that's one good thing on that note. So like Bifrost, for example, when you log in, it's your biometrics. When you send a transaction, it scans your biometrics.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, like the main attack vector in that instance is if somebody's holding you at gunpoint. But to me, that's not much different than, if you have cash on hand and that's happening, or, you have a debit card and things like that. Certainly there are limits on how much you can send at once. So, maybe more functionality with the wallets like that, or, if you want to send X amount, you could say, oh, maybe I want to do an extra security layer when I send over this amount or something like that. I imagine in the future that this stuff will be tied in. Like, this is longer term, but like with your voice, like you could probably say some kind of phrase that would like lock your account until, you do something to do that. But like, these are all things that, as early adopters, we're not going to get to like reap benefits from until later on.
There's also, there's another type of wallet. You could have a web wallet, and then your mobile will be the signing app. So every time you want to move something, you have to actually scan the computer with your phone, which logs in through biometrics. And then it's a signing app, basically just on your phone. So like Credo uses something like that, which is a pretty cool technology. So that's a way to add multi-layers, multi-factor authentication, or multi-layer, really.
Awesome. Well,
So I think we'll see more of that going on, especially on the institutional side.
Cool.
They're not going to use regular MetaMask to move assets around.
Mm-mm. Oh, I'm with you on that. So let's go this next one, which I really like this question from Zerptwerp. So they say there's been a lot of speculation comparing the price of Kusama, which is ticker symbol KSM, to SGB. However, Kusama has a much smaller total supply. What do you think is a reasonable speculation for SGB price in 2 years? So I'll at least touch on the comparison between the two. So right now, Songbird, I think, at least yesterday it did, or Wednesday when I last checked, has a higher market cap than Kusama. And really, the only thing that's going on Songbird right now is people are, participating in the FTSO and the decentralization of providing price feeds to the network. We haven't seen, the state connector system finalized or the F asset system yet. So for me, it either says that Kusama is undervalued or Songbird's overvalued. So, whatever you want to go with on that. To me, there's just right now way more that's happening on Kusama. They've had hundreds of millions of dollars worth of TVL. Songbird doesn't have that, but maybe there's something to be said for how the supply of Songbird is distributed into what, groups, and maybe that's something that's helped Songbird out the gate. And surely, exchange is probably not releasing, I don't know, I'd roughly guess 2 billion or maybe 1.5 billion Songbird at this point. So that's a decent amount off the market, but we know the foundation has like 1/3 of the supply. We know the Flare team has 25% of the supply, and then there's probably about 40% maybe of XRP holders that have gotten their airdrop already based on the split between exchanges and cold wallet. So I mean, I absolutely, like, if you guys were around this summer when we kind of speculated about Songbird, I'm totally perplexed that it's done as well as it has. So I've been changing my thinking around it, but Kusama has way more. They have 10 parachains at this point. So I don't know if it's just Kusama's undervalued or Songbird's overvalued. So I'll let you go, Mickey, on the taking that too.
No, I was just looking through the comments. You covered everything on that. Somebody just said, sounds like biometrics is not a good idea. Well, it's a pretty good
No.
idea for Google and Apple. You know how you open your phone? It secures literally your whole phone when you open it and close it. That's using biometrics, and it's locked in a secure enclave. It literally cannot be hacked out of there. It stays in there no matter what. Have you ever heard of somebody's biometrics been hacked? No, because it's stored in your phone and only in your phone, and only your biometrics can unlock it. So even if your physical phone got stolen, they can't still access it. Now, that's just one security layer. And like Patty was saying, it's better to have multiple security layers. So in the future, if we had something like, say, your facial biometrics with, say, then a voice biometrics on top of it. And I know people get freaked out. Oh my God, chip biometrics and all this. Use it every day to log into your phone. Use biometrics every single day to open your phone, either it's with a thumb or face. That's how you're opening your phone. So that gets stored in just your device. So that's something we didn't have really in 2016, when the wallets really came out. And it was like, okay, hardware wallet or exchange. We didn't have that. It was just like a PIN or password. And if you could combine those with multi-layer, that's really the best solution. And it would be nice if some of these software wallets offered, like what you said, Patty, a additional layer on top if you're going to do some kind of large transaction or something where you could customize and put limits on. And I think we're going to see advances in the future. We're just at really still the early days of just like DeFi and storing these wallets. I think we're going to see more hybrid type wallets too, where there'll be some insurance behind them. Like, for example, GateHub offers $100,000 insurance on your assets if you go through them, with XRP only. But we'll see more of that, I think, in the future. And then even Polysign has said it's possibility we offer a non-custodial wallet to users in the future, or semi-non-custodial wallet. So that's something that I think is important to everybody, because there's so many wallets out there. It's, you have a wallet for Polkadot, you have a wallet for XRP, you have a wallet for Cardano, you have a wallet for Solana. And it's now, how many apps do you have on your phone? It's unfortunate we don't have just one wallet where we could do everything with. And, that's what comes with being early pioneers and early users to these networks.
Cool. So this next one I want to take briefly is from Sergio. So definitely, I don't think this is a dumb question, and I'm curious about it myself. But he says, "How do we delegate our Songbird governance vote?" So I'll start off with, if you look at other protocols out there, generally what they have is, a web page that you can go to that has proposals listed. If they allow people rebuttals, things like that, and you can go and view them, and then you can also connect your wallet. So how you connect your Bifrost wallet to adapt, like maybe XFi, if you've done that already, you'll be able to do that when we get to that point where governance is being instituted. I don't know. To me, it's still a little cloudy on the interplay between Spark governance over Songbird and then when Songbird can do its own governance. So I don't know, Mickey, if you have maybe a better understanding on that, or if you're kind of waiting as well.
Yeah, I think we're waiting. It hasn't been defined yet how Songbird's governance is going to take flight, but it does seem like in the beginning, Songbird's going to be a subordinate to Spark's governance. So it means if you're a Spark owner, you're going to be governing over the Songbird network until it gets its own governance. But I think Hugo made it seem like even at that point, Songbird is always going to be a subordinate, I think, to Flare. So say the Flare network and the Songbird governance decides, hey, we want to test this new integration for an F asset into, say, Cardano, right? We would say, okay, it's getting tested on the Songbird network. Now, the Songbird governance wouldn't have to approve that. It would just be done. So that's why I think it's like, think of it like
a community government that gets overruled by a federal law or something like that.
Yeah,
That's kind of how
like
I
that.
see it working. It's like the community can
Two-tier.
decide things, but if they get, if the larger entity that oversees them comes in and decides something wants to be done, there's nothing they can do to stop that. That's how I imagine it.
But just to clarify there, what does that mean? That means that nobody has a special vote. Everyone has one vote. So if you own Spark, your one vote is equal to an institution holding one vote, or a validator holding one vote, or a signal provider who holds Spark as one vote. Every vote is equal. So you're able to vote directly or vote in a liquid democracy way, which would allow you to delegate. Say it's a very technical decision, and you're like, I don't really know what the best, the way to vote on this. Okay, I'll just delegate to somebody who I feel like can make the best decision. And that will come along in the future. And I think it's something hard to see the governance play out in a couple of years. You can't design a network that's going to be perfect for the conditions that come along in a couple of years. So governance allows for different levers to pull and kind of guide the whole network in a direction as the industry and the market and the network itself changes. As there's more users, less users, more value on there, the governance can pull these different levers to steer the ship in this direction and that direction. And what's nice is that Flare has Songbird, basically. As David Schwartz said, it's a network where we could test all these new components that we would want to add to the network before actually bringing them on the Flare network. So Flare put out a tweet, I think it was yesterday or the day before, Patty, where they said Songbird, can go in its own direction, and certain functions can just stay on Songbird. So, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, but it's hard to say really where Songbird goes in the long term, at this point.
Yep, absolutely. And I would just say, as kind of like I don't know, being a good community member, something like that, and as far as governance goes, even if a majority is gained, that's needed for a certain proposal to pass, there still has to be a minimum number of people that voted in it. So if you want to be more of a passive member of the community, it doesn't mean that you're a bad member. You're not a bad part of this ecosystem, but you could sit there and find somebody that you think aligns with, however you feel about things, or you think, has the best mind of the community, or, best thoughts for the community moving forward, and just delegate your votes to them on a more permanent basis. And then maybe you come in and check every few months and you say, hey, did this person did their votes align with what I wanted? Because you can delegate to them so they can vote on your behalf. So, you could see different entities, maybe people really think Flare community, has a good mindset for the community. They think he'll vote responsibly. He's not going to do it just to enrich himself and whatever's the best decision for him personally. and maybe he sets up an address that allows you to delegate your vote to that address, and then maybe he gets a million, Spark tokens behind him, and he votes for a large group of people. Similar to kind of how like a republic works in the United States. I'm just saying that because I understand our government. Like, we have representatives that we elect and they vote on our behalf. Luckily, in this situation, you can vote yourself, which is great. But also, for things where you're like, I don't really know, I'll leave it up to this person. You can do that and you can have that representative. So I really like that component that's being instituted. It's just important that when we have proposals that we get minimum turnouts so we can actually move the network forward with decisions. Voter apathy, I think, is one of the biggest roadblocks for these decentralized ecosystems that are being built right now. So cool. Let's see the next one.
Thank you for the super chats, guys. Appreciate it. Trey Vex and Ronin Lone Wolf.
Yeah, appreciate
nice name.
It, guys.
I like it.
Yeah. So here's one from JV. So he was asking about explaining the risks if we take out a loan, let's say Nexo Tether, swap USDT for Songbird on Bitrue, send to Bifrost or Decent, turn more XFi on the 11.5 snapshot. Yeah, so certainly, the main risk is if whatever asset that you're using to back that loan as collateral, if it falls so much in price that you become under collateralized and are liquidated, that's the risk. That's the main risk I see there. Now, you could certainly maybe, I don't know if they let you take out like loans where you back the loan with stable coins on like Nexo. I mean, that would be much more safe since it's a stable coin. But if you have to back with crypto, you'd probably want one that's not going to move around a lot in that time period that you're going to keep it open. And certainly that's a way to leverage into getting more of the XFi airdrop if you want to do that. So, another option could be, which I would consider this more risky as well, is if XFi V2 launches in the next 12 days, which I think is possible, and they have their loans platform out, you could take Wrap Songbird that you already have, take out a Canary Dollar loan with that Wrapped Songbird, and then you could just wait till like the last possible second to trade those Canary Dollars into Songbird or Wrapped Songbird so that you can have that for the snapshot date and date and time on November 5th. So that's something else you could do. I will caution, just based on going back to the XRP snapshot that happened, we saw the price of XRP rise like a good amount. I don't remember the exact percentage leading up to the snapshot date for Flare. Granted, though, this was a much bigger kind of deal, I think, than maybe the XFi one is this point. I guess it's open for debate. So anyways, with that, we did see, I would say, like in the 24 hours leading up to the actual snapshot date and time, the market for XRP started dropping. So what people tend to do is they'll buy farther in advance of like an airdrop happening. So Songbird, expecting the price to move up as that date comes closer. And before before the snapshot happens, because they don't care about it, they start selling out, because if you wait until after the snapshot, the price is already going to probably have dropped. Now, there's other factors that can affect this. I'm just going on, situations we've seen in the past. So I just want to say there is that risk that the price drops prior to the snapshot actually happening in a short time frame before, which could put you, in danger with your position if you use leverage. So
we got some questions on F assets. We could maybe combine those two questions together, possibly.
Who tell me who they're from. I'm just like way behind, so I don't know if you're looking recent.
Yeah, Charmaine, I think he has something to Lantern about regarding if you can get liquidated
for minting
the XRP. Asset. So I'll cover that one, and then up one, there's another one on F assets. Oh, what are the risks to F assets? To minting F assets. All right. So when you're minting FXRP, you're not staking your XRP. So there's no risk for you personally to get liquidated. So since you're going to be sending your XRP to an agent, they're going to be putting up 2.5 times that value in Spark collateral. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. That all happens behind the scenes. You just get your FXRP, you get your rewards daily in Spark, And when you want to redeem, you redeem. Now, what happens in the background, Pat, you could kind of explain here how the FXRP system works, but you won't see any of that. Most of that will be abstracted. You'll just see, okay, I pay this fee, whatever the market demand is at that time. They haven't disclosed how the fee system will work, but it's doubtful that it's going to be 5%. It will probably be based on supply and demand of the F assets and the Spark that's put up as collateral. So you'll just see the FXRP that you get in your wallet, and then you'll have it to use on Flare. But you don't have your XRP like locked up or staked anywhere. It goes to the agent. So if you want to explain that, Patty.
Yeah, so basically, I'll go through two situations. The first one, which doesn't have to do with this diagram, but that will be for the second. So the first one is, let's say basically you went in, you paid maybe 2% creation fee to mint FXRP. You now have FXRP. Let's say the price of FXRP is at $1 at the time. It's tracking through the FTSO the price of XRP. So they'll be pretty in line. I mean, obviously, you'll have arbitrage since everything's split up between so many different places to trade. But with that, let's say the agent, and it's going to be multiple agents backing your position, but let's say one of them, their collateral falls below 2.5 times the US dollar value of the FXRP minted. Then they get basically like a margin call from the system saying, hey, you have X amount of time to move this collateral up, which is like a minute or two, so not very long. If they don't do that and they don't get it back to 2.5 times, what happens is the system starts selling off the agent's collateral to repurchase the F asset off the market and bring it back to the system and burn it in order to make sure the entire system stays solvent. So that's kind of the first layer of defense. Also, which we aren't as keen on, how this works too. And they're going to have additional documentation. But Hugo has said, and they've said in their white papers, that there's going to be incentives for agents to take over other agents' positions that are in danger of failing and things like that. So that's another avenue for protection. And then the last one is, let's say you have 100 FXRP and you go back to the agent and you want to redeem your 100 XRP on the XRP ledger. And let's say you only get 50 back and the agent doesn't deliver 50 of them because the XRP price is high or something. So with that, what would happen is you still have that 2.5 times USD value in collateral with the Spark token. So that plus 1% will be paid back to you in Spark tokens. So if 5 Spark were worth 1 XRP and they didn't deliver 50 of your XRP back, you would get 250 Spark tokens plus 2.5 more for that 1% on top to pay for trading fees. So you can swap back into the asset that you want. So you could, at that point, if you get the Spark, go to FlareX and swap that into FXRP and maybe try again. Or, you could send it to an exchange and find a way to get into XRP from there. Like they'll have Spark on Bitrue, so you could go there and swap that into XRP. Obviously it's a little harder right now with XRP delisted in a lot of US exchanges. Around the world, though, you guys are much better off with us than that. The other thing on top of this is, after that collateral is paid out, half of the agent's remaining collateral on that position gets burned. And that's like, in total, 40% of their positions being burned, and also some of it's being used to pay back the person that they didn't honor the redemption for. So in this situation, because it's so over collateralized, it's actually not, it doesn't economically make sense for an agent not to honor redemptions. So that's like one of the pillars of the F asset system, is that the best route for these agents is always to honor what their obligations are, because if they do not, then they will get severely penalized. So that's kind of like how they keep the system trustless, in that you're always going to be able to retain that value that you minted in an F asset. It may just get paid back to you in Spark if you go to redeem instead of the underlying. So, and it's not like you go back to redeem and it takes, 24 hours for you to get it back, where the price could have moved if you got Spark instead. You would know within a short period of time. If you get Spark back, then you're like, all right, I'll go trade this into the asset I want. So hopefully that covers everything on that.
Yeah, and that's very unlikely to happen because the agent then takes a 40% loss. So why would an agent economically take a loss like that? And before that situation happened where you would get paid back in Spark, another agent would likely take over that position and then take that Spark from the other agent, and then they would make a nice profit. So they would probably step in between there. But the final fail-safe is that you would get paid back in Spark. And this is the reason why it's over-collateralized. So we're minting an asset one-to-one that's over-collateralized with Spark. So it's not truly a synthetic because the agents still hold the underlying asset to FXRP of what it's pegged to, which is XRP. So it's a really uniquely designed system here, and it's actually much safer than, say, something like wrapped Bitcoin, which is just, okay, we get a federated group to sign a multi-sig wallet, and we hold all the Bitcoin in there in one big honeypot, and then we'll mint out Bitcoin. Now that works. Is it trustless? No. Can problems happen? Yes. So if you do hold wrapped Bitcoin, I think that's a much bigger risk, and you really can't say it's trustless. So this is the first time we've seen a trustless issuance. Now, this is using networks that don't have smart contracts. So XRP Ledger, XLM, Doge, Litecoin, they can't communicate with the Flare network. And this is where the state connector system comes in to allow us to signal that data back. So all of that is being tested right now as we speak. So hopefully on the Songbird network, we'll be able to test this minting of F assets before Flare goes live, so we can understand the process, we can see how it works on our end. So you might not need to know all those details on the back, but it's nice to know the risks. But really the front end is all you need to know. You're going to be able to do that from your non-custodial wallet. So right from Bifrost, you'll be able to mint. There's no KYC, there's no AML, there's none of that stuff needs to be done because you're just minting FXRP, and you could do that in a trustless way, which is very nice. But those agents themselves are going to be regulated entities, like they explained, like Deltec and other custodians, which will add an extra layer of security. So it's not like Joe Schmo sending your XRP back to you. It's actually regulated entities. So this is why you can't, well, we don't know actually if you're going to be able to stake your own Spark and do this. It's unknown. Why would you? It really wouldn't make sense to do it yourself. Patty, if you want to throw in why that would not be economically feasible for each individual.
Well, so, I mean, first off, I would say you probably need a pretty large capital base to start off being an agent. Additionally, you're going to need to be able to make money off the underlying assets people give to you. So if you're not like financially savvy enough to do that and also hedge against all the risks that are happening at the same time, so you can honor redemptions, managing all the collateral. So there's a lot of things that go into it. To me, it's a full-time job kind of thing, as far as, finding the best ROI and also, risk management on all the positions you're backing. So I just think it's more suited for, institutional or CFI players, like those kind of entities. Now, certainly maybe somebody comes up with a trustless way to pool together a bunch of different people's assets and have it managed. I think that's just something that's probably farther off in the distance to when that will happen. So this next one,
just clarify here. You, and I see it in the chat, when you mint FXRP, you do not put up Spark. You do not even need to own Spark to mint FXRP. All you need is XRP, and you mint FXRP. That's it. Because I saw somebody in the chat saying that you need to put up collateral and Spark. You don't have to do that.
there is something called a collateral reservation fee that's paid in Spark, but it's 0.1% of the position size. So,
so you need a small amount.
Yeah, it's pretty small.
Also, just to throw in there that we didn't add is that once you do mint FXRP, you're going to be earning daily Spark. So you'll be getting how we earn weekly Spark right now from the FTSO. You're going to be earning daily Spark from minting FXRP. So you'll get that continuous compounding effect. And then every week when you go to delegate, you're going to have that much more Spark to be able to delegate to the FTSO. So you see how this compounding effect will really take stride on Flare. And also the FTSO rewards, the inflation is roughly 6 times higher. So there's going to be 6 times more FTSO rewards. And then you're going to have those F asset rewards, which is part of the total supply coming out. So there is a potential to earn a lot more on the Flare network than there is right now on the Songbird, just to give everyone an idea. Now, if the participation rate is, 6 times higher, that will
They'd
cut
be
into the amount
theoretically
of
even.
rewards.
Yeah.
But it's possible that Spark is at higher value than Songbird too. So as the value of Spark increases, the rewards will remain the same. So it's going to be in the beginning. The participation rate, the participation itself, is going to be more beneficial and advantageous for users than Songbird even was. But it would be nice to test the F asset system out on Songbird, and I think we will be able to do that hopefully in the near future.
I'd be shocked if we can't. I'm pretty sure we'll be able to.
And then we could do a tutorial, and we'll definitely run through all that. And then we'll all be experts by the time Flare Network launches. And this is the whole point of, having Songbird. And, I know it's unfortunate with the delay, and I know some people haven't received their actual SGB from the exchanges yet. Hopefully they'll release it when they release Spark. It's possible that some do that. We had Kraken announce, we had Uphold announce, we had Bitso announce, we had Bitstamp announce. So I know the couple big ones that haven't fallen yet are, Coinbase and Binance are 2 specifically. But hopefully they will when they get more pressure from the community.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll help once, Bitstamp, Kraken, Crypto.com, Uphold all release theirs. Then at that point, yeah, they're going to be the sole 2 in the US pretty much. So I think eventually we'll get there with those exchanges. I think it's very encouraging that actually some of these other big exchanges have released or are going to release in the next couple of weeks. But this next question kind of ties into what you were just talking about from, apologies if I say this wrong, Mikhail Navarro. And he said, do you know Flare is going to have a good staking percentage for staking FXRP like on Nexo, and how safe it will be? So all the stuff we just talked about with the F asset system, like I guess I would call security measures or how it works, that speaks to the safety. Additionally, you don't actually have to stake the FXRP to earn with it. It's enough to just mint FXRP and hold it in your wallet, and you'll be receiving yield in Spark tokens, which is part of the distribution plan for the original 100 billion supply of Spark tokens. And then additionally, once you get those, you can delegate them out to the FTSO. So you have basically Spark coming in daily, and you can redelegate on a weekly basis. So I think that's probably a lot better than what Nexo's offering. I also imagine, don't quote me on this, that they're probably lending the assets you give them. So I think you could argue it's safer to do.
No, they do lend them.
Yeah.
They say it in the terms and conditions.
Yeah. So there you go. There will be other opportunities to use FXRP to get yield on top of the stuff I talked about, but those are like the easiest, what I would call least risky ways to do it at this point that I know of. So we'll see if things change in the future. And you could actually, since all the F assets come with detachable votes for the FTSO as well on top of the Spark token, we may see some of the signal providers, especially ones with lower voting power, incentivize people in some way, whether it be NFTs or discounts on the rewards they get paid out in Spark, so like a lower commission rate, things of that nature, if you delegate your F assets with them as well. So we'll see how that kind of goes once Flare gets live.
Good point right there. So keep that in mind. I think, I forget that sometimes. I think many people do, is that once these F assets are also going to have voting power with them. So when you're doing your weekly delegation, right, you have your Songbird or you have your Spark, that is voting power towards that. You're also going to have F asset voting power now too. So FXRP will come with voting power. So like Patty said, these signal providers, what do they want? You see them, they want voting power. They're giving you different things. So holding these F assets is something else that they want for voting power, and it levels the system out. So now we have people who hold Spark who theoretically want the price of Spark to be higher, right? So that's why we have the F assets have voting too, because the F asset owners don't want the Spark price to be too high in relation to FXRP, because there's got to be that balance in the collateral system. I mean, the market will determine the price, but you don't want a situation where FXRP has too much of a premium over XRP. Right, Patty?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
didn't go too detailed into that, but if there is any, say that there is a possibility, though, Patty, that since FXRP comes with yield on a daily basis, that it can carry a slight premium
Oh,
to
well, yeah.
regular
So
XRP.
on that point in the white paper, Hugo wrote like there is basis risk, which is basically if like FXRP trades slightly off of what a XRP trades. So anytime you have some kind of like derivative type asset, since FXRP does derive its value from XRP, if you think about it, there's a fee to get into XRP from minting, since you're paying for that collateral backing. And then also, trading fees to get into it, and it natively comes with yield. Maybe it trades a little higher. I don't know for sure. We'll have to see. But also the FTSO is gonna, have an effect with that. So let's see. There was
Jason Ambassador is a good question.
cool. I do want to touch on this one just because
Armbuster.
yeah, too fast for you. He said, "Hey guys, hope you're doing well. What's your thoughts on strong nodes?" Honestly, I mean, I don't know if I can say anything against it because it's performed pretty well. I'm not like super deep on strong nodes, but I was talking to some friends in real life that I know, and they've been doing pretty well with it. And it seems like they're starting to kind of like offer strong nodes and stuff like that, like their services to other blockchains. So I think that's probably a really good path forward for them, so that people can get paid in some different kinds of assets. And certainly, like decentralized computational power in the future, I think is going to be important, especially as we've seen, like Amazon Web Services flex their muscle and shut down certain sites and things like that in the past. So I'm all for that stuff. It's kind of similar to what Evernode's going to try and do on the XRPL with layer 2. So I think we're going to keep seeing more and more of these kind of decentralized, like, server systems, essentially. So let's see. You said from Jason, Mickey. Had a good one.
Yeah,
Sure.
it
Oh, okay.
was Jason Armbruster. Hugo said Spark will not launch till Songbird proves the state connector works, along with the F assets are tested. Who is the guinea pig that is going to mint F/S XRP? Hugo or someone else?
I would say the agents and the Flare team. So any kind of developers and stuff like that are building, essentially business models, they're probably going to be the ones to test. And I don't think like Flare is going to put it out there until they've done sufficient internal testing. I know like it's Songbird and they're like, this is experimental, be warned. I still don't think that they're going to put something half baked out there that has a high chance of failing. So I think they'll do a lot of that testing. And I believe it's being done right now. So
I think this is one of the big reasons why they created Songbird, was to specifically test the state connector system and F assets.
yeah,
We see the FTSO spun up really quick. They're running really smooth. The blockchain itself, Songbirds, running really smooth. But I think the two most difficult protocols that I think they really wanted to get tested in real world environment was the state connector system and then that F asset. So I guess they're going to do internal testing, like you said, with the agents. And now all the signal providers can't become all agents because they're going to need to be licensed money service providers. So the signal providers themselves, what they're doing, they don't need to be money service provider licensed because they're not custodying anyone's assets, right? You're just delegating votes to them. But the agents are actually going to be custodying. Maybe some of the C5 providers will say, hey, stake Spark with us and we'll pay you a yield. Then they'll use that Spark in the collateral system. So we could see companies like Celsius, Nexo, in the future, BlockFi, and others that offer that, and also exchanges too. I would think that some of them would be testing as agents, and also then on the back end, like an institutional side, VCs, they have all that VC money and all those venture capital investors that are also many of them market makers. Like Genesis, for example, trading is a market maker. So you could see them integrating and testing the system. So there's a whole different group of stakeholders that would be testing with Flare. Now, Flare Limited said they're going to be a participant. So instead of being the face of the network, they're going to be acting as, say, an agent. and then they'll use their licensed custodian, which I think they're using Copper as their custodian.
Awesome. So this next one from BWS 205 asks, do we need to undelegate our wrap Songbird in order
Good
to get the
question.
XFi distribution? He says, assume not. And you are correct in assuming not. So whether you have Songbird, wrap Songbird, or if your wrap Songbird is being delegated, none of that, all of that is fine in regards to earning the XFi distribution. It just needs to be in somewhere that's going to support the XFi token when you get it. So, things like that are going to be MetaMask, Decent, and Bifrost are the easiest ones. Certainly, you can use Ledger if you're planning on doing everything out of that as well. You just have to use that connection to MetaMask in order to access the XFi token. So that will cover that one. And then let's see what else.
The super chat's a very good question.
Oh, is this the newest one? Let me see if I can find it. There we go. From, let's see, Fernando Diaz. Would it be possible to build F asset as a service protocol that allows marketplace on Flare to accept underlying chain transaction as payments for NFTs? I'm not entirely sure what he's asking. Do you understand, Mickey? You're muted if you're talking.
Yeah, when I'm in the chat, let's see. I would think it's possible that he's asking the last marketplace on Flare to accept underlying chain as payments for NFTs.
Oh, is he saying that basically I could pay somebody maybe on the XRP ledger in XRP and then I get that NFT on Flare Network? Because if that's what you're going for, yes,
Possible.
that's possible.
Yeah.
That's the power of the stake connector system. Is the validators that operate on Flare also operate on all these underlying F asset chains. And what they're doing, and also people, if you're just like a validator on, Litecoin or something, you could certainly do this as well, but they compete for sending data availability proofs. So whenever something happens on the XRP ledger or Litecoin or whatever it may be in the future, the validators on there will signal back to the Flare network and say, this is the changes that just happened on this underlying blockchain. So let's say you could build a system, and this is what Trustline's kind of doing with the Solaris bridge, where you can talk between the XRP ledger and the Flare network, and something can happen on the XRP ledger that causes something else to happen on the Flare network. So yeah, certainly I think you could do something like that. I think that makes sense to me.
All right. So there's another question here, Patty. This is a good one for you. Hi, guys. This is from Real R&B. Hey, guys. What do you think about Credo price action and the upcoming Panther protocol public sale? Do you see them becoming F assets?
So Panther definitely not, because Panther protocol is going to launch. It's basically a layer 1 and a layer 2. So I would imagine that they actually, like, you can mint the asset on Flare potentially. Maybe there is a case for it to become an F asset. I just don't think that's anything in the near future. But I am very excited. I can't get into the public sale, unfortunately, because I'm in the United States. But certainly, once it gets trading on exchanges, I'll be watching that price action and trying to get involved at some point when it makes sense with price and all that, and all my other asset allocations. And then, Mickey, you want to take Credo? I mean, I'm pretty excited with what Credo's doing right now. So,
Congratulations.
Mickey, you're breaking up again. All right. I'll see if he can get that figured out. But let's see. I'm going to move in to what else do we have here? Move down to the bottom, guys. So, okay, here's one. Will Ledger Nano support aesthetes? Apparently, the snapshot was yesterday. Anybody have news? So, yesterday was the last date to set up a Trustline for the ELS, which is the native token of aesthetes, for that airdrop, which will be commencing sometime in November. There is a way that if you set up a Trustline through your Ledger Nano using the XRP toolkit, that those assets will be accessible once you get the ELS token. You just have to go through the XRP toolkit to access them. I don't anticipate that Ledger would provide support on that. So that's where I see with that going. But I certainly think that's a very interesting project. I did the Trustline and am looking forward to seeing more about it. Let's see.
I'm back.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to say, do you want to touch on Credo at all with that question? So, yeah.
Credo, I don't see being an F asset. The reason being it's its own layer 2 network. So Credo, we don't know if there's any direct connections to Flare there. We speculated that there could be because there's a lot of overlapping investors, like multiple on that. What Credo is kind of a layer 2 with multi-party computation. So all the assets that are actually held in like the Credo wallet are representations of the assets held on the underlying blockchains in those multi-party computation wallets. So when you're holding assets on Credo itself, the Bitcoin or XRP or whatever asset it is, if it's hacked, it's not the actual asset. The asset is held on the underlying blockchain, and it's consensus driven. So the consensus of Credo, basically proves that those assets are held in the underlying blockchains on accounts on each blockchain. And it kind of like abstracts all that up into one nice, clean console wallet with all your assets. And then you can put different permissions on there. This is kind of what PolySign's doing. And then the Credo token is meant to be used on that actual layer 2. I just don't see right now actually how it would be an F asset. But you never know in the future.
I mean, they could also mint it onto the Flare network. So like right now, it's an ERC20 token. So, they could wrap it from Ethereum through like Flare wrap maybe in the future. That's something we could vote on if people wanted to do that. Or certainly like, maybe they come up with a way to mint it. But right now, we don't know if they're going to launch on Flare. There's a lot of connections there, right, Mickey?
Yeah, like speaking of EVM chains, so the Flare network, since it's an EVM-based chain, is much easier to communicate and interoperate with other EVM chains, just like Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Credo, Panther. They'll be easy to communicate with, where you don't need to have that collateral put up and all those different things done that you do with F assets. So I don't know if we'll see everything be an F asset, especially if it's an EVM-based chain. They can communicate better. Like, for example, we're going to see the first federated sidechain is going to have the Ethereum virtual machine. So we don't know exactly what that's going to do, but that could easily connect to the Flare network in a different way that's not F assets. So we'll see. That interoperability is much easier because they're using the same standards, the same smart contracts to communicate with each other, where Litecoin, XRP Ledger, Doge, and XLM are completely different blockchains than anything else out there. So they can't really communicate. That's why that extra spark is put up as collateral for the F asset system, and they designed this whole state connector. So there's no other system that's like the state connector out there. And I went through all the interoperability PDF papers that there are.
There's nothing.
There's nothing. Quant's not like it. That's an operating system. It's different. This actually integrates into the validator set of the consensus and then signals the data back to all the nodes on the Flare network to verify. And then there's a slight incentive there, reward that they could earn that comes out of that inflation reward. So the system is designed very well, but it's very complicated to spin up something like this. And that's why it's taken Flare, 3 years. And everyone's rushing, oh, when are you going to launch this? When are you going to launch this? It's because it's so complex of a system, the way it's designed. They need the Canary network to do this. So you'll get your tokens, but everyone's tokens come second to the security of the system. When that's all ready, it'll be done. Patty and I speculate end of November, early December, but there's no guarantee on that. It's possible it goes into January. It's not dependent on the SEC case
or the bull run.
Hugo said there's
or a theoretical bull run that we don't even know.
Yeah, it's not based on the bull run. They don't care if the bull run is starting, ending, or in the middle when they launch. They're launching a technology which is going to be an infrastructure. It's not here just to have a high price and launch. And the SEC case really doesn't have any factor on Flare. So, Spark is its own asset. It's distributed in an airdrop. It's not security. There's no investment. So I don't know how it would be affected by the SEC case. The reason why it was delayed was to build this Canary network. I mean, it's I think it's fair to say to take them on face value. You could see why it's being tested right now. And now I think it's good for all of us because we're all going to have this experience. We all now able to use the Bifrost wallet or Decent, be able to delegate. We're comfortable with it now. We did it a few weeks. And if you haven't done it, set it up, grab like 20 Songbird and just test. That's not financial advice, but just get used to doing it, even if you didn't get the Songbird from your exchange yet. Just get used to doing it so then you'll feel comfortable when Flare launches. Because when Flare launches, all the exchanges are distributing Spark. They're not going to hold back like what they did with Songbird here. They all agreed to distribute Spark. Songbird, came about last minute kind of. So.
Awesome. So this next one, Mickey, I kind of want to do another look based on Jason's question. So can you give a live example of diluted rewards from signal providers? Say a person has 10K wrapped Songbird and they have delegated all to AFTSO to make it easier. Can you show with a screen share? Yeah. So right here, what I did, this is the formula to determine if basically a signal provider for the next epoch is going to be over the vote cap amount, which is 10%. So in this instance, this is metrics for AFTSO that I just pulled up right now. So let's just assume that there's no more rewards coming in for the week. So this is like the final rate they had for Epoch 4. This is also currently what their vote power is. Let's say that the vote lock is happening at this amount, and we can see how they would have performed if they were oversubscribed for Epoch 4. So with this, if basically I take 11.97, subtract 10% from that, divide by 10. I hit the wrong button. Divide by 10%, then subtract that number. So I do 1 minus 0.197. And then I can multiply that by their current reward rate, which is 1.517. So the adjusted reward rate, basically going on past data, if they had this oversubscription for the current epoch that we're in right now, they would actually, instead of have a 1.517 reward rate per person or, per 100 Songbird delegated, they would actually have 1.218. That would be what it is. And if we look at comparing them to everyone else, let's sort these. So I said 1.218. They would be number 3, and Scandi Nodes and Bifrost would be ahead of them. But, even though they're diluting the rewards by 20%, AFTSO has been so outstanding at this that they only fall to number 3. If I applied that to some of the ones down here, they would drop a lot more from their position. It's just AFTSO has by far been the best one. I'm rather surprised that they are able to be that far ahead of the pack every single time so far. So, I mean, good on that team and everything. But that's essentially how it will work. And obviously, maybe if you want, you could apply it to their overall rate and see how that affects them overall. But we're not going to know exactly what the voting power percentage that they had at the lock unless you go back in after the fact and find it. So just realize that. But that's generally how it works. Let's see. Any other ones you see, Mickey, that you want to do? Oh, here's an interesting one. So any ideas what the rewards rate for minting FXRP will be in another year? Will it be under the 3% that exchanges now offer for staking XRP? This is impossible to say because, one, we don't know what the reward rate is going to be on a daily basis. And then additionally, it's highly dependent on how many F assets are minted and what the value of Spark is. I imagine it could probably outpace 3%, though. It's definitely going to outpace 3% for the first year. But that's personal opinion based off modeling I've done and with some inconclusive information. I don't know if you have anything out there. Yeah.
It's likely that will be done in a non-custodial way, and it's always less risk if you're able to earn in a non-custodial way than trusting many of these exchanges.
Yeah.
We know with, Daddy Gensler out there, holding back, Coinbase's lend program. I don't know. And now New York State coming after Celsius and Nexo. For example, I'm in New York. They just took away all potential earnings, excuse me, that I could earn on Nexo platform. They just said, oh, no more earnings as of this date. So, I mean, it's possible that we could see other states do that, which is unfortunate. But one thing they'll never be able to do is they're never going to be able to take away the DeFi earning. No matter what Daddy Gensler wants to do, no matter what the New York State Attorney General wants to do, they're never going to be able to take that away because everyone they're open source and anyone could download, the software for these wallets to just connect to these different DeFi applications and different blockchains. So somebody asked earlier, I just want to touch on it really quick. What's the least risk way to earn on, say, the Flare network? And that would be to delegate to the signal providers. So you're not delegating the actual tokens. You're just delegating votes. And then to mint FXRP. Those would be the least risk ways to earn. And with those, you earn Spark. It's possible you'll be able to stake Spark in the future too. We just don't know how that whole system is going to work because the system is going to need collateral. And how does the Spark price drive up in value? The more F assets that are minted, the more Spark that has to be locked up in that collateral system. So some people were disappointed, oh, we got algo now cutting into our rewards. But what that means is the more that's minted onto Flare, the more Spark that's locked in that collateral system. Therefore, there's less supply on the secondary market, which will theoretically drive the price up. So that's like the perpetual flywheel that will get going over time. And I think that's superior to just generalized staking, where that's meant to secure the network and not really drive the value of the asset, where this collateral system will inherently always drive Spark higher as more F assets are minted. And I personally don't think that much redemption will take place. Some will, but you'll be able to swap from FXRP to Spark right on Flare network using Flare Finance. So if you're looking to move between assets, you don't have to now go back to redeem, back to the exchanges. So there'll be less use of these exchanges as we get more decentralized exchanges launched on Flare. Like Flare Finance is just one. I think we'll see more in the future, and we'll see synthetic assets, and we'll see other types of tokenization built on these blockchains. And then Trustline is going to have a fiat on and off ramp. So I saw somebody ask that question before, Patty. We didn't get to it, and I know it's getting late. We're over an hour now, but Trustline is going to have a fiat on and off ramp to the point where you won't
for the US. And it's starting in California first and then expanding. Yeah.
Surprisingly, in the US first, typically, we're last for everything. You'll be able to borrow RA, for example, against your FXRP and then cash it out to fiat. So if you were looking to, borrow against XRP, say it's $10, $20 at some point, you were looking to buy a new car or a new house, the better way to do that would be through Trustline compared to Flare Finance, which is more strictly DeFi focused. Trustline is going to have a connection to the traditional markets and the payment system. So it'll be able to link to your bank account through Plaid, the way you link through exchanges and you connect your bank account through Plaid. So that's going to be something new that I think DeFi needs, is this connection to the fiat world. So we could take some of that value that we borrow. So those typical, we borrow from a bank. Well, now you could borrow from the decentralized bank on the Flare network, which would be probity against your assets, which are, say, FXRP and Spark. While they're sitting there, they're still earning you yield, but you're borrowing against them, using that value to do whatever you want with. Of course, you got to pay it back to take the assets out, but you don't have a set schedule. There won't be, terms or anything like that. It's at your own discretion, which will be nice.
Let's see. There was one. Okay, I guess last thing I kind of want to address for sure, Mickey, is with the XFi thing coming up.
Yeah.
Just what the supply is going to look like for XFi. So in this, you can port this over to YFlare when it goes live on Flare Finance. So XFi token, it's the secondary governance token on I guess Songbird Finance it'll be, and it is used as a fee replacement token. It's used in governance. You can actually earn risk-free yield in the governance staking protocol with it in the future once that goes live. And that's basically a fixed ranged yield that you can get of 5 to 35%, depending on how many people are staking and how much network activity there is for Flare Finance. But with that, we're going to have a 40 million airdrop to SGB people. And then also there'll be 40 million locked up in a reserve pool, which can be used by the DAO of Songbird Finance or, for Flare Finance in the future. Also, it's used to pay if the minimum APY staking rate isn't met in the governance staking pool. Some of this XFi will be used to pay that out over time if that happens. Additionally, I think it's is it 20 to the foundation? It's either 20 to the team or 20 to the foundation. I want to say it's the foundation. And then 10 million goes to the team and investors. So really, I don't know what I don't know if they have.
I thought it was 10, 10, and 10. I thought it was 10 foundation, 10 community fund, and 10 team. But I could be wrong.
I think the reserve is the community fund.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyways, the last 30 is we don't remember exactly right off the bat. We'll get into this more in the future. But just briefly, we know this will be on the market. Maybe some of it gets locked on Coinbase for a little while or Binance. It's very possible. This reserve is going to be locked up until it's needed. So it's theoretically possible it never comes onto the market. The foundation, I can't imagine they're going to be spending any XFi right out the gate. So I want to expect that there. And then the team is the only other question in the investors. I don't know what their vesting schedule is or anything like that. Honestly, they're taking less than 10% of the total supply. So I wouldn't even be upset if they don't have a vesting schedule, to be honest. I think it's a rather small percentage compared to a lot of other projects. So with this, we're looking at probably a circulating supply of around 40 to 50 million. So, whatever you think price is going to be on top of that, it's a DApp. It's a secondary token for DApp governance, basically. So I wouldn't expect it to be higher than the Songbird market cap or anything like that. I don't really know if there's an ecosystem that has a DApp token but bigger than the native asset of that network. So, roughly 40 to 50 million supply on the open market.
Yeah, so keep in mind, out of Flare Finance's 4 tokens, XFi is the furthest down on the totem pole.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So
just keep that in mind.
Yeah, the other one is SFIN, which is the primary governance token of Songbird Finance. That has a total supply of 11,000. 8K are going to the farm. So you can get that by providing liquidity to Flare X. Another 1K is going to, Mutual. So Flare Mutual for things you can do there. We don't have full details on how that's going to work yet. It's modeled after Nexus Mutual if you want to take that out. Also, a 1K will be available to the loans platform for borrowing and participating in the stability pool. If you don't know as much about Flare loans, also, there's more info to come, and it's modeled after Liquidity protocol on Ethereum. So you can look into that one. And then I believe 1K goes to the foundation or something like that. I don't think any goes to the team. I'm pretty sure none of the team gets SFIN. So that means SFIN is really only coming on the market if, once people start participating in these 3 things. And it's going to take 2 years for this 10K to be released. Half of it's released in the first 6 months. So it's exponential decay model.
So that's pretty cool that they're paying you, that we're going to earn rewards for basically borrowing in those nests or CDPs eventually. You'll earn SFIN on Songbird, and you'll earn YFIN on Flare Finance on the Flare network. But the majority is going to be for YFIN, which is probably the top of the totem pole, right, of Flare Finance assets, is going to be through yield farming, which means you provide liquidity for 2 assets, and the F asset and YUSD is going to earn you the most, and then you take that LP token and you put that in the Flare farm to earn. So to earn the most YFIN, you would need to provide those 2 assets, F asset and then YUSD in the beginning, according to the white paper. Now, some of this is subject to change when they actually launch, but this, what Patty described, is the current information. The only thing that we didn't calculate in there was the added D-Flare that they're giving out as rewards to Songbird. on Songbird.
Yeah,
It's only a couple million though.
Yeah, that's prior to XFi coming out. That's supposed to be. So we'll see what happens with that.
Oh,
Or
that's true. That's why.
it's possible they do it while XFi is coming out. I don't know. Just
That's
because I think they've pushed back their plans more than maybe they were expecting originally. Which honestly,
yeah.
I'm happy that they did it, because wrap token earning should be part of that ecosystem. Otherwise, if some other DeFi ecosystem came up that allowed that, I think that new ecosystem would have a clear advantage over them. So I think it was a good move to do that. Let's see if there was any last thing before we wrap up. Nice. Oh, so Ryan in the chat, who is giving some good info on the FTSO, is from Inner Oracle. So nice to see you here. I'll definitely, we'll give you a little shilling. So for sure. And that's something I do want to address is, if you're going to mint F assets in the future and you're going 100% on an oversubscribed signal provider all the time, and let's say there's an Oracle attack because too many people do that, you can blame yourself in part. So personally, like, I don't want to say like don't go with the higher ones by any means. I'm just saying, if you have opportunities to split up your votes, there is something to be said about, decentralization of the Oracle and how important it is to the entire network. If the FTSO starts failing, it is going to cause a lot of problems for Flare. And part of that is people being responsible with their delegations. Right now, I don't think 12% is too big a deal with AFTSO. Just saying, like, if it gets much higher, I don't know what the theoretical attack point is, but something you should keep in mind. So let's see. I think that's it for me, Mickey. You got anything to wrap up?
And it's just good now. We're still in the test network. Switch your delegations every week. I think it's healthy for the system. I know people want to go for the most rewards, but if you go to the signal provider that's at 12%, you're getting diluted. So just keep that in mind if you do that. Patty already explained that. But the system's been running really good with the FTSOs. We have a good amount of signal providers now out there. The Songbird Network has done over 1 million transactions, 1 million blocks. So things are looking good. And the next step here is to look for that state connector and the F asset system testing that they're doing right now to give us a possibility to be able to utilize and test. And once that's all done, then you'll see the Flare network go live. So that's what we're waiting on. So everyone's like, okay, when is it going to happen? January, is it going to happen December? Well, this is what we're waiting on. They're testing the state connector now and the F asset system. All right. Once that's done, then Hugo and the team said Flare network will launch. And when it does launch, though, it's going to be handed to the community. There's no rolling back. There's no Hugo making a decision unilaterally. It will be the community that will make all the governance decisions. And that will be the stakeholders of signal providers, agents, retail, and Spark holders. So we're all one big community. So that community involves the signal providers, the agents, and us. So I think that's a healthy ecosystem moving forward. And it's going to be decentralized, out the gate, which is very rare. And the token's going to be distributed far and wide, which is also very rare. So Flare Network, I know it's taken a while to launch, but when it launches, it's not going to be a 5-year delay like Cardano just to get some more contracts out. It's going to be pretty much ready to go out the gate. So we can look forward to that moving forward.
All right. So,
and I want to say thank you to everyone for super chats, and thank you everyone for support, and all our viewers. Really appreciate it.
Yep, definitely know this was all over the place, and sorry we can't get to everybody's questions. We'd probably be here for another 2 hours, but
thank you all admins for your help. You do a great job, Josh, David, and all the others. Great job as always. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So with that, this is the DeFi Standard. I'm Patty XRP.
And I'm Mickey B. Fresh.
And we're out. See y'all.